I mean, you can't expect, and I have seen that, for example, in my own country, when I've worried and fretted, and I have often wondered, why are people not leaving the country? And I've said, well, they're very brave people. But then I've got their answer. When they all sit there and say, well, it's okay, the Americans will come and fix it for us. Well, the Americans aren't going to fix it for us. And I think the sooner that message goes, the better it is. That our politicians really have to get on their backside and do something. And if the politicians are no good, then collective civil society has to get together and do something. Or else, we will be falling like Afghanistan, and we will, as one of the authors in our country wrote, we will descend into chaos. And so I think that this message went very well to the Karzai government now. But I don't know. When people get lazy, they get really lazy, whether he's learned his lessons or not. And when people get corrupt, it's very difficult to uncorrupt them. Easy to get corrupt, but very difficult to get uncorrupt. This is my feeling. So I'm not on a very positive note, but we have no option. I wish we had another option, but we have no option. So there has to be more emphasis on getting the leadership to act, to do something. Otherwise, I think it would be in the fairness of things that leadership has to be changed then. Because this is a matter of 160 million on one side and Afghanistan on the other, and there is a whole Central Asian instability belts there. So it's not as though you can pack up and leave and come and say, okay, we'll all wish for the best, because the best ain't coming. On the strategy of the domestic violence and on rape cases, these are the most difficult cases to do. Why domestic violence is difficult? Because first, domestic violence was never even considered a crime. So it took us years to get that accepted as a crime. Now when you do domestic violence cases, first of all, according to the percentage that I have from our own work in our firm, 60% of the time, the woman doesn't want to pursue it. Because when the perpetrator feels that they will get into trouble, they will use all their charms on the victim to get her to drop the case. And so it's very disturbing also sometimes for us, because we are right getting there, and when she turns around and says she doesn't want to do it. She doesn't want to go any further. The rest of the cases, you can possibly win 10%. And even there, the punishment is almost negligible. And the frustration also is because people have such grand ideas about legal system once they get into it, that you will file a case and you will get justice tomorrow morning. So this process of years of trial tires people out. And the fact that a person is not in jail but has been bailed out doesn't resonate with them. So these are particularly difficult cases to do. I'm not saying that there has not been success. There has been. Whether you say it's satisfaction or not is another matter. I mean, I've never been satisfied if you get somebody into jail. I feel relieved but not satisfied. But if you get somebody off the hook, that is more of a satisfaction for me as a lawyer. But in cases of rape, it is very much a question of cross-examination. Very much a question of being able to deal with it from the very beginning, so that you are able to get a medical which is not stereotyped. Because otherwise, there is a stereotype medical for all rape cases. So that you're able to be there and say, and now the strategy is that we do send lawyers along or paralegal along with the victim. So that she asks the lady doctor, have you put this, have you put that? She has a checklist. Have you got that? Have you got that? Have you got this? And there are always things missing. We are able to go with our clients when they have to identify the perpetrators. Because see, for us it's not very easy to identify them. It's no one-way window like you see in the films here. Everybody sits on the floor, 7, 8 men in jail, and you have to walk from near them and then point and say, this was the man. And it can be very terrifying. So these are cases where the strategy first is to make the criminal legal system more sophisticated and women-friendly. Otherwise, it's very difficult for women as victims to prosecute people. And the ones that we have been successful on is where it has been a case of much more extreme, like gang rape, and people have stood up, and government have stood up, and judges have stood up and said it can't happen. And I'll tell you my unhappiness there also. As a lawyer, as a woman I feel great, but as a lawyer, because then there are always chances that due process is never followed. Everybody's too keen to give this man death penalty, which I'm not against death penalty. But quickly it will go to the anti-terrorist court, 3 evidence, outcome judgment, in goes the man for death penalty. And I know that somewhere in the appeal we'll get away, because there's been just too much of a hurry in this, you know. So these are the frustrations that we have. But otherwise, in other cases where you're getting women's rights, like a woman's right to marry without permission of her father. Now, we will fight the case, but we will also take on board other NGOs, so that the NGOs and the media, women in the media, work together. They are writing about the issue, they're preparing public debate, and there is a debate on such issues. We are fighting the case, and I see that when you're fighting a case, it's also a very good strategy to put more into your petition than needs to be. Because you put it also not as a legal document, but as a document of advocacy. And during the argument, you can say things that you can't say otherwise, which you make sure gets into the press, so that people begin to think about it, you know. So these are the strategies that we use, but we do work very closely with women in media and with women NGOs.